Thank you, everyone, for showing up again tonight. This is our final session of the virtual Red Blacks coaching clinics presented by the OSEG Foundation. It's been a privilege for us to share our coaches with you and their expertise, and I know they've gotten a ton out of it. We really appreciate the foundation for putting this on. The OSEG Foundation is all about breaking down barriers for kids and their access to sports. And you guys are, the coaches that are on tonight are a great example of that. You guys give everything you've got for very little praise and money and everything else. But you guys, you know, you're devoted to this, and these kids are going to be better for it throughout their lives. So just a quick note about what we're doing. This has been 6 weeks. We've had coaches from a variety of positions, starting with head coach Paul Lapalisse. I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. And again, the foundation's putting this on. It's all a big thanks to the coaches here, and we wanted to do something for all of you just to show you how much we appreciate what you do and how much the kids that you coach appreciate what you do. The OSEG Foundation, $1 million just about back into the community to help with that effort. Just a bunch of fantastic people with a fantastic cause, and I'm privileged to be part of that and proud to host these events. So without further ado, this last session, I'm going to introduce Linebackers coach Chris Tormey. Coach, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I'm going to share the screen here. Everybody see that?
Just give it a second. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay. So let's start from the beginning here. The first thing is I just appreciate you guys and being here tonight. And I'd like to make this like an interactive presentation. So, I mean, if questions pop up along the way, maybe Chris, you could help me with this. We don't have to get all the way through this to answer questions. So, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, as things pop up and they're fresh in your mind, you'll shoot out the question and we can get them answered and then move on to the next subject.
Absolutely. Please do that, folks. There's a Q&A button on your Zoom interface here. So if you do have a question during the presentation, please use that button. I'll get your questions and we can ask those to Coach. We can do that throughout the session. If you've got stuff towards the end, we can finish up with whatever's left over. So don't hesitate to send those through.
One thing I'm going to have to warn you about, Chris, and everybody who's present tonight, is I might have to leave at 5 o'clock because my nephew is starting for the Denver Broncos tonight. He's playing quarterback.
That is a reasonable excuse, and 5 o'clock for our Eastern friends means 8 o'clock local time. Just so no one's too confused here. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to watch him play. He had a great career at Boise State, and you know, I've got 2 beautiful daughters. But if I had, he's the son I never had, so I can't wait to watch him play. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to break this up into about 6 different segments and go with a variety of PowerPoint slides and then video presentation, you know, in and out of it, kind of interleave that together. And the first thing I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about philosophy, and then just talk about, you know, how we practice and the ideas that I think are important to get across to the players in terms of how we're going to practice. You know, and then I've got a little segment about linebacker, every play must, what we have to do to be successful on every play. And then we're going to get into a couple of different segments one about tackling. And we just got off an 1.5-hour phone call with one of the leading experts in the world on tackling, the coach from the New Zealand All Blacks, right? So, you know, we had a chance to meet with him, and he just reinforced a lot of the things we're already teaching about tackling. And then I'm going to get into a little talk about some ideas and thoughts about blitzing the quarterback and some techniques that go along with that. And then we'll just finish up with some random footwork drills and block protection drills and drills that can help us, you know, get better. So go ahead. I'll go ahead and get started here. There's no further questions at this stage, but there shouldn't be. So first thing is about coaching philosophy. And I think it's important as a coach that you have a philosophy, you know, a place to fall back on, because, you know, if everything's important, nothing's important. And so, you know, in terms of the coaching philosophy, I think the number one thing you have to do to be a successful coach is to develop trust with your players, right? So, you know, how do you do that, right? So, you know, I think that the whole thing with trust has to develop with them understanding and knowing that you've got their best interest in mind, all right? And I think if a player believes that believes that you've got his best interest in mind, then he'll run through a wall for you. But if he believes something else, that you're not being completely honest with them or you're not telling the whole story, then, you know, that's going to fall apart. So it has to start with developing trust, and communication I think is the cornerstone of trust. It's where trust begins and ends. And if you don't have good communication, it's not going to go well in terms of developing a trusting relationship. So the communication side of it, I think this, and this has been said about communication, I think it's really true. First, seek to understand, then seek to be understood. So first seek to understand, then seek to be understood. And I've been around a lot of great coaches and guys that I've learned a lot from over the years. And, when I was coaching in Idaho years ago, one of my mentors was a guy named Don Matthews. I'm sure you know that name in the CFL, one of the all-time greatest coaches ever to coach in the CFL. And he was coaching up in Edmonton at the time when I was at Idaho, and I used to go up and visit and talk football with him. And one of the things that he said is that he never met a player that screwed up on purpose. So, to tell him is not to coach him, right? And so to engage the learner, to communicate with them, you need to be able to break it down and find out where he is in his learning process, because everyone's different. So, I think that, the ability to ask penetrating questions, to ask a guy what he sees on tape, to ask him what he saw in the last play, to try to understand where he is in his mind, because he didn't make that mistake on purpose, and it's our job to try to help him correct it. All right. So just communication, engaging the learner, finding out where he is in his process, and then helping him get to where he needs to be. I think you got to believe in him. How is a player going to believe in himself if his coach doesn't believe in him? And a lot of times as coaches, well, we get into the trap, and that's what it is. Of, hey, well, he can't do this, or he can't do that, or he's not good enough, or we can't win with him. Well, guess what? If he's your best guy at that position, then he's your best guy. And you got to believe in what he can do. Find something he can do, put him in positions to be successful, and let him know that you're with him, that you believe in him, all right? Because he'll never have the confidence to be successful if he doesn't believe that you believe in him. Just creating positive pictures. So one of the things that I learned this, over the years, and I've been through Pacific Institute a couple of times, which is a power of positive thinking seminar to try to put those things in place. And I think it's really a positive thing, and kind of what Pete Carroll does in his coaching style, and I believe that Coach Lapple does this too, is to create positive pictures. So I would challenge it as to go through a day as a coach and don't say don't. So instead of coaching what you don't want, tell them what you want, right? Or try to get that play on tape when he does it as well as it can be done, or another player at his position does it as well as it can be done, and put that up for everyone to see, because that's your example. So create the positive pictures so that they understand there's a meeting of the minds of what it looks like when it's done right. And stay away from the negatives. Don't say don't. I think you gotta make them feel you. You gotta make them feel your enthusiasm, but you demand it of them, but they got to feel it from you. And I think it starts with the coaches, especially, during training camp or late in the season when it gets to be a drag for everyone, where are they going to get their inspiration? They're going to get it from you, right? And sometimes you don't always feel like it either, right? So my old mantra on that is that as far as enthusiasm goes, fake it till you feel it, right? Fake it till you feel it. Make it, get it going, have some fun with those guys in practice, get them excited about being out there, and pretty soon that's gonna spread, and you're gonna be drawn from them, right? So, but I think it's up to us to set the tone in terms of enthusiasm for practice, the excitement for being out there. Just standing around and telling them what to do isn't gonna get it done. Next thing is just teaching concepts, not assignments. So, back in the early years of my coaching, I was always very cognizant of trying to make sure that everybody understood their assignments and teach them exactly how all those assignments change with every variation of formation or run play or pass play. And you know what? They don't learn that way. And so what we need to do is teach concepts. We need to teach the big picture so these guys can understand not only the what, but the why behind what we're asking them to do. All right. And critical on defense is to know where your help is. And you can't play fast on defense unless you're know where your help is. All right. So, and the other thing about it is once you understand a concept, then you can know the strengths and weaknesses of the defense, pre-snap, so that on the snap, you're not thinking. You know where the weakness is. You're anticipating them to attack you with the weakness, and you're flying around making plays instead of thinking about what to do. So teaching concepts, not assignments. Demand effort, and I think that that's something we got to show them. We got, again, go back and create those positive pictures about what effort looks like and what you want it to be, and demanding that effort from these guys. And, we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get into the presentation, but we break that down and measure it so that we can be concise in our critique of their effort, right? And we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that. And then the last thing is this, right, is just keep it simple, right? It's not, we as coaches, especially at our level and, at the NCAA level, that we have all day long to sit around every day and half the night to draw up plays that look great, that are going to work to perfection if we can only execute them. But what we have to ask ourselves is what they execute under pressure on game day, right? You all come out, you've always heard it a million times, they come out the field, that was my bad, I should have done this or that. They always know after the fact what they were supposed to do. But is it so complicated or so complex that they can't execute under pressure on game day? Because that's what it's all about. And if they can't execute under pressure, the technique or the assignment or the whatever the defensive call, the adjustment, then what good is it, right? You're better off throwing it out, keeping it simple, and letting them play fast so we can see it and let the players win the game. I've always kind of had this philosophy is that we want to outplay them, not outcoach them. So we outplay them by playing faster than they do, okay? So next thing is a segment I want to move into are just some thoughts about, how we practice. And again, I think the first part of this is building great relationships with your players and then telling them exactly what you want in practice, right? Because obviously we're only going to be on Saturday as good as we were on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? So in order to be great on Saturday, we got to be great Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So what's that going to take, right? Number one is I think you got to lay out the expectation that we're going to practice with toughness, speed, and intensity. Right. So it's not, you may have a period that's a walkthrough period, or you may have a period that's a learning period, but then players need to know what the tempo is before the drill starts. Right. And so we say, hey, this is a full speed competitive drill, then let's go. Let's see it. Let's see that toughness, that speed, and that intensity that we want to display on game day. Practice with effort and enthusiasm. So practice is, effort is our trademark. So we want to be able to show that in practice. I mean, effort is just, in defense is just running to the ball, right? And how do you get better running to the ball? You run to the ball every single day in practice, every single rep. And we're going to talk about how we define it here in a minute, but to me, it's a burst, right? And a burst is a noticeable change in momentum at the moment of recognition, right? So, and then the speed, am I running full speed? And then, we had Bud Foster on last week, and he talks about how he evaluates effort. Bud Foster from Virginia Tech, and he talked about arm violence, right? So we want to see that arm violence with the burst. We want to see those arms start churning, and we can tell when you're running full speed and when they're not. Okay, so we want to practice that way. Practice with effort and enthusiasm. Practice with consistency. So we don't want that guy that's up and down every day. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but we want to have a consistent player, a guy that comes out there every day with an idea about what he wants to get done on that day. The drill discipline. So this goes into now when you're in your individual drills. We want to work with intensity and focus, as we talked about earlier. We want to listen while others work, because if we have 9 linebackers out there and we go through the drill 8 times and we make the same correction 3 times throughout the drill, we don't expect the last guy up to make the same mistake. So you get 1 rep in a maybe a 3-minute period, or 2 reps in a 3-minute period. You can get 18 reps if you're watching the guys in front of you. So listen while others work. Be ready to go when you're next, so we don't slow the drill down. And then watch, listen, and learn. And we don't have the guys stand in lines. We have them stand in a place where they can see the drill, see what's going on, so that we can get the coaching points and move on from there. All right. Watch, listen, and learn. So the second part of it is, okay, so we get 2 reps in every drill. First time you're up in the drill, okay, maybe it's inside foot up. Get your inside foot up, and then it's up to the player at that point to correct that and come back on the second rep and then clean it up, okay? Focus on fundamentals we want. And I always think it's important for the players to have a daily plan as far as when they come out to practice. I always like to go up to them individually during the stretch line and ask them, hey, what's your focus today? All right, what's your focus? And if everything's important, nothing's important. So I want to hear is 2 or 3 things from them that they think they need to focus on during that practice, because that brings focus to their everyday drills, right? And then we talk about the importance of fundamentals, and then, you know, you're going to be playing against a lot of good players. Some guys that are, you know, everybody you play against is going to be a pro football player, and some of them are going to be better than you, right? So fundamentals are the equalizer, right? So we're only as good as the fundamentals in our toolbox. And we want to have a great toolbox, and we want to be sound fundamentally, and we want to take pride in that as individual players. We want our players to be craftsmen out there, to be craftsmen of their trade. And the last thing I have on here, and this is just, you know, my bullet points for what I want during practice, what we want during practice, we want them running all the time on the field. So yeah, I think we all coach that, you know, as far as when the ball's in the air, you know, turn and run. But where it's important, especially when you're playing against a tempo team, is running back. So not only running to the ball, but getting your butt back and being lined up, and so that you can gather as much information as possible before the ball is snapped, right? So RTA is return to alignment. We use that a lot. So you're running to the ball if you're playing against a tempo team, or even if you're not, run back, get to your alignment, get lined up early, be in your stance so that you can gather all the information you need to be successful, okay? So those are some of the points that we think are important about practicing with a purpose. Now let's talk about specific linebacker play, and you know what it is that's going to make us successful on every play. So you know, I think if you talk about any world-class athlete or any high-level athlete, they're going to have a pre-snap routine or a pre-competition routine, or if you're a golfer, a pre-shot routine, where they're going to do exactly, let's just take the golfer, for example. He's going to do exactly the same thing on every shot, right? And this is what we want to get to, is have this pre-snap, have the same consistency and mental discipline to approach it that way, okay? So pre-snap, there's four keys to us here, right? So number one is communication. And Coach Lapo has done a tremendous job of really emphasizing communication and the importance of communication among your teammates pre-snap, right? So the only way we want to think, act, and play as one on defense, so that we're all on the same page. We know who has every gap. We know what every coverage responsibility is. And so then on the snap, we're playing fast. But the only way that can happen is through great communication, right? I mean, I'm going to open up my vision, but I can't see everything. And the guy outside of me or the guy next to me is going to be key in helping me do my job better. So knowing your responsibility and communicating pre-snap. And for the linebackers, I mean, they're the shot callers out there. If you're going to play linebacker in our league, you better be willing to take charge, communicate with the front, communicate with the back end, get everybody lined up, you know, make the appropriate front adjustments as needed, and so those down guys can play fast. But communication starts before anything else happens, right? Now for the linebackers, the next part of it is their alignment. And I would just say this, and the last part of this is the most important part: align to execute, right? So knowing what your run responsibility is, knowing what your gap responsibility is, knowing what your pass responsibility is, knowing the situation and aligning to execute, right? So I may be a will linebacker and I may be a B gap player, right? But yet I may have to be, you know, dropping inside the number 2 receiver who's removed from the box. So, and then if it's 1st and 10, my alignment might be a little bit different than if it's 2nd and 20, right? So I'm going to loosen up. I'm going to get closer to my coverage in a passing situation. I'm going to closer to my gap in a run situation. But knowing what your assignment is, knowing when you're in a conflict, which you often are as a linebacker, that's what play action passes are for, and putting yourself in the very best alignment you can be in to execute, knowing the situation, your gap responsibility, and your pass responsibility pre-snap. So the next phase of that is pre-snap is stance. And this is something we focus a lot on in training camp. In our everyday drills to start out with, we want them in effective stances. So, what's an effective stance is just to be in an athletic position with your knees bent, feet slightly wider than your shoulders, your knees slightly inside your feet. And what this does for us is it puts us in an athletic position. And what I like that you probably all heard of all these rules before for linebackers, just starting with the first part of it, we don't need to be all crunched down, ready to hit somebody. We need to be in a relaxed, knees bent position, athletic position so we can move. But we don't need to be in a cocked and coiled position, right? We need to be flexible and relaxed, ready to move in any direction, right? The feet are slightly wider than the shoulders because that gives you the best base. And so, it's been said, before coaches I've worked with, no base, no balance, no power. So if your feet are too close together or both feet are off the ground, you've got no base, you've got no balance, and you've got no power. And the last part of this is I talk about the knee slightly inside the feet. And so just a little bit knock knee. And what that does is it brings the weight of your body over the inside balls of your feet. And why do you want that? Because that keeps you from crossing over. And if you're just 50-50 with your heel and weight balance the same, then you're standing up, then you're going to be crossing over a lot and you're not going to be in an efficient position to make a play on the snap. So by bending your knees slightly inside, and just try that, stand up and do it on your own, you'll feel the weight over the inside balls of your feet. Now you're going to be much less likely to cross over on the snap, make you more effective as a run and a pass player. Okay, the next part of it is key. So now in the keys phase of it, my eyes are seeing the triangle of the guard, the adjacent lineman, and the near back. We're going to open up peripheral vision to see BTL blockers or blockers coming from outside the formation back into the formation to know and how that's going to affect my responsibility. And we do a lot of key drill stuff, in between periods. But what we talk about is, having a soft focus. So I'll give you this example. So I can stand in my living room. I can look out my picture window. I can see the car in front of my house, and I can see the house across the street. So people that say, hey, well, we key backs or we key linemen, we want to keep patterns, right? And, the first step of the offensive lineman is always going to give us our initial read. But by keying the pattern, we can see the difference between a zone play and a counter play, a pass set or a draw set, right? Just seeing those patterns through the adjacent lineman back to the back, so that now we can read and diagnose, all right? Okay. So that's pre-snap. Now, I'm trying to spend a little bit of time on this, but how much ability, this is what I'll say to the players in the first meeting, how much ability does it take you, physical ability, to take care of these four things? Your communication, your alignment, your stance, and your key. Getting your eyes right, being in a good stance, being a perfect alignment, and communicating. It takes, you all know the answer, it takes zero athletic ability. So anyone can do this, right? So now it's just a matter of, okay, where's my mental discipline? And do I have the mental discipline and focus to take care of the mental part of it pre-snap every single time? So communication, alignment, stance, and key, that's all mental. And if we're not taking care of that, then we're not giving ourselves a chance to be successful. Okay, post-snap. Okay, now this is how we want to play. If we've taken care of everything we need to do pre-snap with our communication, alignment, stance, and key, then on the snap of the football, we have an instantaneous movement based on information from our keys, right? So it's like, what I say to the guys, it's like this. It's like, how much time do you have to think to take, when you accidentally put your hand on the stove, to take your hand off the stove before you burn yourself? How much time does that take? It takes no time, because there's no thought process involved. It's a visual key to your spine. It's a pain key to your spinal column, and that hand comes immediately off, right? And that's the kind of reaction we want to see from the players on the snap. We want to see an immediate reaction to the information we're reading from our keys. Okay. Now, and you're always going to hear this. Well, coach, I thought this, or I thought that. That's your first problem. You shouldn't be thinking. On the snap of the ball, you ought to be playing, reacting to what you see. Okay, the next thing is the execution, which is getting your job done using superior technique. And so, we kind of talk about that with the toolbox, and that's what all of our individual drills are for, and that's what practice is for. And on game day, we don't want to be thinking about what our technique looks like. We got to be able to rely on our technique under pressure. And that's, a guy I used to work with named Don James said that, mental toughness is the ability to access your talent on demand. And you can do that when you trust your technique. You're not thinking about your technique on the snap, and you're just trusting it and playing. Okay. Next part is pursuit, and that's burst, speed, and finish. We already kind of talked about that, a burning desire to get to the ball. But if you look at the whole play, everything we talked about, the pre-snap, the post-snap, reaction, execution, that's the first 2 seconds of every play. But every play is going to be 6 seconds. So that means that 2/3 of every play is all about your effort, your pursuit angles, your burst, your speed, your finish, how fast you get to the ball is going to determine how many hats we get to the ball. So that's really 2/3 of the game when you look at it. And I think the players have got to own that. We can't own it for them. They got to own We got to show them what great effort looks like, but we got to show them what great pursuit angles and great effort look like. And then tackling is just wrapping up and bringing your feet. We're going to talk a lot about that when we get into the next segment, okay? Okay, so let's talk about tackling, all right? So we just spent an hour and a half on the phone with Coach Byrne from the All Blacks talking about rugby tackling, and this is kind of the direction that we're going in as a staff. Coach Benavides has taken us this way, and we're exploring this and moving this direction. I think, you know, what we need to do as coaches is understand that we're responsible for the future of our game. And if we continue to have issues with head trauma that can be solved through fundamental techniques, then it's really on us. So we've made the decision as a coaching staff to move forward with rugby tackling, and not only because it's a safer way to tackle, but we really believe that it's a much more efficient way to tackle, right? So to take you through some of the fundamentals, I wish you all could have been on the call earlier that we were just on, because you would have gone into a lot more detail, but we're just going to brush through the high points here and talk about what we see. First thing is I want you to look at Ray Lewis here in this picture, right? And that is the ideal position to be in when you tackle, right? So we're going to talk about where his arms are. You see both of his arms are wrapped up around the ball carrier, right? His head and neck are in a neutral position, straight down to his spine, and he is launching himself off the near foot, all right? So that's how you put the big hit on people, from getting yourself in a great base and executing and exploding off your levers, hit with that near shoulder off the near foot. So let's just go through the tackling fundamentals here. And again, you know, feel free to raise your hand whenever, okay? Tackling technique, number one phase of tackling is tracking, right? So what's tracking? That's tracking the ball carrier in space, closing space to the near hip while maintaining leverage. So we're closing space to the near hip while maintaining that inside out leverage. If I'm a linebacker, typically on a screen play or a toss sweep, I'll be inside out. If I'm a defensive back, a safety, a halfback, or a corner, you know, then I may be outside in. So I want to maintain that relative relationship, closing space, closing as much space as I can, all right, to the ball carrier, all right, while I can, closing as much ground as I can. All right, now, during the approach part of it, so we've closed space with proper leverage. Now we get to that phase, and where is it? You know, I can't give you an exact number, but I'd say somewhere inside of 3 yards, we're going to start to come to a controlled movement to maximize contact, right? So the controlled movement to maximize contact is about sinking your hips, narrowing your base a little bit, and getting the weight on the balls of your feet, which is the opposite of what we used to teach with old school coaching, right? It would always be, hey, widen your base, sink your hips, all right? Be ready to react laterally. We want to keep closing ground, narrow the base, get the weight on the balls of the feet so that we can have forward momentum on the ball carrier when we hit them, okay? Okay, next thing is long stride, short stride. So that's what helps us, right? So, one of the things is that, you know, if you talk about shimmy or breakdown, what's going to happen is that your players are going to get into that approach area, all right? And their base is going to widen, their feet are going to stop, they're going to get their weight back, and now they can't move to make a reaction in space. And they've given the ball carrier a two-way go. So we're going to keep closing space and go long stride, short stride, maintaining that momentum, giving him one way to go, right? And now we know by our alignment and our leverage that we're forced him to go a certain way, and we're able to react and make a play without breaking down, without, you know, coming to a stop, right? So it's long stride, short stride, sink the hips, narrow base, weight on the balls of the feet, right? We want the neutral neck. So we want the neck, we say not down, we want the head not up. We want a neutral neck, which means straight up from the spine. And I think what you're seeing from Ray Lewis on this picture is perfect in terms of his neck and where it needs to be. His head is perfect, right? So we want a natural, we want a neutral neck. We want to have our neck come straight up from our spine, not down, not up. We want the hands up like a boxer in the approach, right? So we're not going to drop the hands and swing them. We want the hands up like a boxer, so that when we make contact, right, we're able to punch and wrap with our hands, right? And we don't want to just shoot one hand. We want to shoot both hands and punch and wrap. And that's why having our hands up like a boxer is going to put us in a good position to do that. The other thing that's going to do is having our hands up like a boxer is it's going to protect our shoulders. when you drop the hands and then you're making first contact with your bicep or forearm, that's when you're going to have shoulder issues, when the shoulders are going to start subluxing. But if I keep my hands up like a boxer and I'm making contact with that shoulder, keep my elbows in tight, I'm able to wrap up much better and I'm protecting my shoulder joint. Okay, strike zone. Okay, so now, you know, we've tracked, we're in the approach zone. Now in the strike zone, I want to hit with the near foot and near shoulder as much as possible. All right, so basically, I'm exploding with the near shoulder, and we'd like to hit off the near foot. That isn't always possible, right? So I may be pursuing inside out on a ball carrier to my right. So I know I want to try to hit off the right foot, but I'm running full speed. All right, I'm in the approach phase. All right, so now I'm going long stride, short stride. I may not always be able to get explode off that near foot, but that's ideal. If I can explode off the near foot with the near shoulder, that's really where my power comes from, right? Now, for a linebacker, I'm making a play inside in the box, right? Same thing there. Now, if I'm stepping up in that A gap, where's the near foot? You know what? We don't care. It doesn't matter where my outside foot is up or my inside foot is up. What I want to do is hit with the near shoulder, right? With the near foot up as much as possible, okay? Okay, so the next thing is a punch wrap. And I think I just changed this because I had punch in here before we had our recent tackling session. So now with the punch wrap, it's really all one motion. And when you punch, you know, like I said, the hands are up like a boxer and you're punching from that alignment. You're punching through that ball carrier with both arms. And there's a couple reasons for this. You know, clearly you can't just wrap up with one arm, right? But the other thing that happens is if we just extend one arm, then our shoulders are going to turn, right? And we want our shoulders and spine to remain on the same angle so that you can imagine you're hitting through the ball carrier, right? So we don't want to hit a glancing blow by turning our shoulders. We want our shoulders to be square with the target, and punching with both arms keeps our shoulders square, right? So now we punch and we wrap violently, okay? Okay, now the next phase is we want the knee under the hip on contact, right? So that means that, you know, it's all about strike timing. We want to be too far away from the ball carrier when we start the strike zone punch, but we don't want to be so close that we can't bring our hips. So it's just a feeling that you're going to get through repetition of how close you need to be to the ball carrier before you fire a shot. So we want to be close enough where we can get the knee under the hip and explode off the near foot, but not so close that we can't explode because we're too far away. So strike time is, like I said, that's an important part of it. That's exploding and popping the hips. Now with the finish, we're going to hit through the target. So, back in the day, I think we're probably the way a lot of us have learned, it's all about the big hit, about squaring up in the guy in the hole, about putting your face on him. And this is really kind of not what we're looking for. We are looking to hit through the target and hit soft meat, right? So when we talk about soft meat, what is that? That's the belly area, right? And coach that we just talked to, Coach Byrne, just mentioned this as far as the most vulnerable place in the body is the belly button, right? And that's the target. That's where we want to be hitting. We want to be hitting low because they can't protect themselves down low. They don't have the same kind of ability to protect themselves. You know, if you're hitting through their stomach area, through the abdomen area, getting under their block protection and hitting that soft meat, okay? Then we want to cinch the wrap as we come through. Right, now we've made the contact, we club the arm, cinch the wrap, grab cloth, suck the guy into you, raise your shoulder through his solar plexus, and then drive the legs on contact, right? So not just enough to bring the feet, we want to drive the legs on contact, okay? Driving the legs on contact after we cinch the wrap, and then finish on top. And that was the last point, and we just got from Coach. I thought was great, and I hadn't really been coaching that, but you can always choose to finish on top if you've got a good wrap. So you can finish the ball carrier by being on top, finish that guy and knock him back, right? Okay, right? So next, now, how are we gonna measure it? So we wanna talk about, dominant tackles, effective tackles, and poor tackles. So a dominant tackle for us is 0 yards after contact, right? That's how we measure it. So if I hit that guy in the hole and he gets nothing after contact, that's a dominant tackle. He got nothing, right? Now, an effective tackle or an acceptable tackle might be, say, 2 yards or less of yak. And then a poor tackle is you got him down, but he hit you and he got 3 yards after contact. So That's how we want to look at it. It's how we want our players to look at it. And we're striving to be dominant, right? I guess the guy in the league, the NFL that really stands out to me is Bobby Wagner. And I think we all know the tackling stats with him. I think he made 95% of his tackles. 100 and some tackles, only missed one last year. And this is his tackling standard. And you watch that guy tackle. He's not always a big hit, but guys don't get yards after contact because he's hitting them low. He's clubbing with those arms. He's bringing his feet, and he's getting underneath these guys so they're not getting any yards after contact. All right. So I thought what I'd do right now is just take you through a couple of these drills, and then maybe watch a little tape, and then we'll move into the next part of the presentation.
Can I just jump in for one quick sec here, Coach? Just got one question for you. Just in terms of tackling overall, and this is one that's come up a couple times during these sessions. How has it evolved how you teach the art of tackling over the last couple years, especially in the CFL, where they've moved obviously for a bunch of reasons away from full padded practices and the contact you can have in a practice? Has that made it more difficult to teach tackling, or is it you just have to evolve your process in terms of how you go about that?
Yeah, great question, Chris. And in the way that we're teaching tackling, we don't really need to have pads on all the time. Some of the drills we run during training camp, but you're not going to be able to go back and emphasize those all the time. But so much in tackling is about tracking, taking the correct angle of the ball, the approach, the long stride, short stride, the strike zone, about knowing when to bring your hips. And these are all things that we can practice, and hopefully we'll have some tape to show you. These are all things that we can practice without pads on, right? And so I'll show you some of these drills, and I think all the drills I'm going to share with you today are drills that we can execute without pads on. Again, when you take the head out of tackling, right? And again, we're not going to talk about the head across or the head behind. That's not part of our verbiage, right? We're going to hit with the near shoulder, which by definition takes the head out of it, right? So we're going to hit with the near shoulder. So now the head's not exactly involved in the contact. And if we execute this technique right, then we're not going to have any shoulder injuries either, right? So this first drill, any other questions there before we move on here, Chris?
No, that's great. That was a great answer, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're going to start right here, the very first day of training camp, and trying to teach these guys how it feels, right? Try to get the kinetics down so they can feel what it feels like when it's executed right. So we're going to get one knee on the ground. We're going to, in this case, if the ball carrier is moving to my left and the drawing on the left-hand side, I'm going to have my left knee down, okay? On the right side, I got my right knee down. Okay, and then the ball carrier is only going to be 2 yards away from the defender, the linebacker here. And so on the snap of the football, I want those guys to feel what it's like to roll over that leg, right? To roll over that left knee so that you can feel the hip over the knee, right? And that's where the ideal position we'd like to be in from a power position is to feel the hip over the knee when we make contact, right? Now we've got the power to knock that guy back, all right? Next thing is we want the neutral neck, as we talked about. So one knee on the ground, roll over the foot. We want the neck neutral. We don't want the head up or down. We want it in a neutral position. We want to drive the shoulder through the rib cage. Again, this short distance now. So we're not going to be hurting people, but you do want to have that feeling of the power that you have when you drive correctly over that down foot. We're going to punch violently with the fists, right? So the punch wrap comes into play here. You're going to create that power angle with the hip over the tackle, right? So that's kind of what we talked about here. Feeling that power angle with the hip over the tackle. All right, so there's this drill, which we'll show you in a second. Okay, then the angle punch drill. So now this is another really good drill where now, again, we're working in a no pad situation. So we've got a 10-by-5 box here. The ball carrier is 5 yards away from the tackle or the defender. And now the ball carrier on the snap is either got it in it. Teach it initially. We'd have him always step to his right or always to his left, and then when we get a little more advanced, then we'll have him go either way, and now the backer's got to react. But for here, we want him just to go right or go left. We're not trying to trick anybody, all right? Now, this is really kind of about the tracking phase and the approach phase of it, right? So linebacker reacts, keeping the near foot to contact. So what I want to do when the ball carrier is going to my right here is I want to be tracking great inside out angle, giving him one way to go. And I want to be going full speed until I get to that approach phase where now I go long stride, short stride, right? long stride, short stride. And then what I'm going to do to simulate the hit is I'm not going to hit the guy. I'm going to roll over that near foot and I'm going to punch the hip with my palms up. Now, why is it important to punch with my palms up? Because when my palms come down, my hips come up, right? Right. My palms are up. Now I can sink my hips and feel that power. So we're just trying to take what we did in the earlier drill, build on that, and feel that power rolling over that near foot into the hip of the ball carrier. Because again, we're not trying to get the head across. We're not trying to, to hit him up high and see how hard we can get him. We're trying to make an effective tackle, and that's getting your knees bent and getting in position to hit through that soft meat area, okay? So we do that in each direction, one obviously the right and then one on the left, and move on. Call that the angle punch drill. Okay, the next one is a bag hit drill, and this is really more of a block pro drill than it is a tackling drill. But, we always talk about near foot contact. So, the real world is taking on a blocker, getting off a block, and then making a play. So in this drill, the backer's going to move down the line with the running back coming to block him. So there's a initial block, then both guys back up. We come down again. There's another block, and then they come off and make a form tackle. So the attack steps downhill. I'm stepping with the near foot. I'm always going to have my inside foot up to contact. Block pro with the near foot up, shuffling through the bags with the near foot up, and then finishing with the form tackle with all the technique we just talked about, right? That's another drill we do. That's probably more of a block protection drill than a tackling drill. Okay, so the next thing when we get back to it, I want to talk to you about is blitzing the quarterback. But before we get into that, I want to get back and watch a little video with you, okay? So hopefully you'll be able to see this. Can everybody see this, the video screen here?
I'm still seeing your PowerPoint there, Coach.
Here we go. All right, so let's see here.
You may have to stop sharing and then reshare the video.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, then we're back to you. If you just share your video
Okay,
screen.
There we go. So we do what we got to do. So let's go with this, all right? And this is the one knee tackle drill we had talked about. So
perfect.
Let's hit F7 here and get the big picture up. Okay, so you see what we got here. So let's just watch number 43 because I think he does this pretty well. So this is the second drill. So you see, so he's got his left foot down. He's going to hit with his left shoulder, right? Now I want to see him roll over that foot, okay? You see him roll over that foot. He's hitting with his right shoulder. So he's got his right foot down. You see 43 right here? Then on the right side, on the other side, you got 45 with his right foot down. I'm going to stop this right here because this is what I want him to feel. All right, so I want him to feel that right there. I want him to feel, if I can back it up and work it slowly, but I want him to feel what it feels like to have the hip over the knee, because that's the power position we want to be in. What else do we like about this tackle? You got the hip over the knee on contact, which is great. Okay, we're doing a great job of I like to see his hands up a little bit more pre-snap, but he's not winding up. He brings his hands straight from his alignment, straight up through the ball carrier. He's doing a good job of being aggressive and clubbing and being, physical with his arms, and then wrapping up at the top, right? So his punch wrap is excellent, right? And that's the term we want to use, is punch wrap. So it's explode off the near foot, roll over that near foot, all right? Punch wrap, neck in a neutral position, extend your hips, and finish on top of the ball carrier here, okay? So we're gonna watch a couple more of these. Yeah, this is pretty good by 49 here at the bottom too. Excuse me, let me roll back and watch him one more time. So right foot, again, he's a little bit too high. So 45 is a little bit too high. I want to see him hitting with the other shoulder, with the right shoulder, just like he is here. But now the next part of this drill, this is 50 something, I went too far here. The next part of this drill is now wrapping up and then bringing your feet on contact, right? So now we're going to be in this position a lot as linebackers. I think this is AC Leonard actually doing this drill. So we like his neck position, neutral neck. We like the way he's rolling over that inside foot. We like the club wrap with his arms, right? Punch wrap. And now we like the way he's bringing his feet. Because a lot of times you'll be in the hole in this position. You'll get underneath your ball carrier. And now it's a matter of driving your legs once you make that contact. So that's the next phase of it right here. This is just basic fundamentals, day one fundamentals. Okay, so I think you got that drill. So let's move on to the next one here. Some reason this isn't F7. Okay, now let's go to the, excuse me, coach. Approach to tackle. Okay, so let's take a look at this one from the start here. Get a better example here. Okay, here we go. All right, so now this is the drill we just talked about. So this is now an approach to tackle drill. So I'm going to come forward for two steps. The ball carrier makes a move. Now I'm going to react to him, and what I want to do is I want to sink those hips. Right, I want to try to get the near foot to contact, and I want to get that feeling of rolling over that near foot. Now, it's not always going to be the right foot, but you get the idea, right? We want to try to get the near foot to contact, but I want to hit with the near shoulder. And how I can simulate that in a non-contact drill is to sink the hips, get the hands of the palms up, and so now I'm feeling that power I have when I push through that hip, right? So that's what we want. We want them to feel that power that they have when they approach it the right way. Here you see Cameron Judge, kind of the same thing here. He gets his near foot up here. It doesn't need to be this low the whole time. So I want to see him go faster and not start shimmying initially. So I want to see him get a little bit faster and now go to that narrow, long stride, short stride, and then no. But I like the finish. That's what we're looking for, and that's really what we're trying to coach here is getting that near foot to contact, getting the hips, hands on the hip, and pushing that guy through to feel that power you got when you do it correctly. Okay, this is not very good by 49. It's my first time he did this. So his footwork's not very good. He gets the wrong foot up. He's too high. He doesn't get down low. So that's not what we're looking for. Let's watch 43. I think he had a good rep on this. All right, so here we go. Here's number 4 coming to the left side. So there it is. Okay, so this is just day one stuff. We're trying to learn how to do this, right? And trying to learn the timing of the drill. So that's another drill. We'll do the approach to tackle drill. Okay. Got to try to get to the next one here. Now, when we get to the next phase of tackling, now we're going to be doing some competitive drills against the running backs here, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and start out with this drill. Okay, so here we go. All right, so this is a drill we do competitively, and we do this against the running backs as well, and I'll show you that one in a second. But now we're having to make an adjustment on the run, right? So now we got two on one here. So both linebackers are coming out. We're back to back in this drill. We're climbing to the top. Right now, both guys are getting downhill. Now, one becomes a profiler tackler and one becomes a backside tackler, right? So if I'm the profile guy, here at 31, just keep closing ground, get the weight on the balls of the feet, right? And go long stride, short stride, and maintain that outside leverage. See, here we lose the outside leverage, right? So take that outside away because you know where your help is coming fast inside out, okay? We want to see him try that with a little bit better leverage. Let's go next time and see how we do. So right here, the same thing. Your guys are going to, this is decent by 45. See, he's coming out a little bit later, but see, he's not breaking down, right? He's closing. He's going long strides, short strides, keeping that outside leverage. And now for 49, coming from inside out, he's got a free shot on the ball. The backside guy does, right? So what I want to do now is I want to take you out of this one. So I think I've got an example of this drill. If I could get these guys out of the way, okay. Well, let's go 2-on-1 against the running backs here. I've got it in here somewhere. Bear with me. Oh, no, this is a 1-on-1 box tackle drill against the running backs. This is where it really gets fun. Okay, so I know the running backs coaches I've been around really like this drill. Coach Kent last year in Saskatchewan couldn't get enough of it. How you doing, my man? All right, so here we go. All right, so now you got a competitive drill, and this is real football. All right, so now here we go. Same thing, all right? You got two guys, and we cut this box down. You can make the box as big as you want, but in this drill, the ball carrier can run around any cone that he wants. And now we're just trying to coach those basic fundamentals we talked about earlier, right? So here we go. The ball carrier is going around the middle cone, all right? And what we want to do as a tackler is snap your head around, keep gaining ground. See, we want to go long strides. We got to be coming out of this short striding a little bit because we get a little bit overextended. Not breaking down, but short striding. But he's still does a decent job of seeing where the ball carrier is and working for leverage, right? Inside out on the ball. In this drill, we only have 2 guys, so both guys choose pre-snap. We don't know pre-snap what we're going to get. The ball carrier can choose any cone. The tackler can choose any cone. That's why every angle is different when you do this drill. So here we go. 49 coming out of this drill, right? He sees the ball carrier is trying to score on the other side. He comes flat down the line of scrimmage, and that's pretty good right here. I mean, this is really kind of what we're looking for. What I would say right here, he does a good job of closing space. Now I want to see you sink your hips and get your palms up so you get a little bit more power and hit that hip. Kind of same thing here. Now what we don't want is this. Now you can coach what you want, what you don't want. Here we don't want this, right? We don't want to break down. We don't want to spread our feet. We want to keep a narrow base, get the weight on the balls of our feet, keep closing ground, because now when I do this, I give him a 2-way go. I'm beat either way. He goes this way, I'm beat. He goes that way, I'm beat. So I want to keep closing ground with a narrow base, keep the head up, okay? Let's take a look at one more of these. That's not very good. Let's go to another one. Here's Micah Tights again. All right, 43 is going to be a good player in this league, but anyway, he plays the other teams, so we're not worried about him. All right, so here he goes, all right? He's fitting that same cone. He's coming flat down the line. Takes a great angle. I like his intent. I like his arm violence coming out of the break here. That tells me he's going full speed, and I like his finish, right? Right there, though, let's sink the hips and get the palms up, all right? Okay, so let's move on to the next drill here, on the next phase of it. And what I would just talk to you now is a little bit about blitzing the quarterback. Are we back on this screen? I guess I got to stop the share and then go back here. Can you see the PowerPoint?
I can see you currently. I think you might just have to click share again there.
Okay, let's go. Share screen.
There you go.
So, oops, sorry. Okay, from current slide, here we go. All right, blitzing the quarterback. All right, so what we're going to talk about, I think we're going to go past 5. Hope I don't miss the first quarter. But what we're going to talk about here, we're going to get into some technique towards the end of it, but what we're going to talk about here is just a mindset or a thought process for pressuring the quarterback, right? So, a couple of things, just, what we're thinking about pre-snap, and when we're game planning, thinking about how we're going to come after the opposing quarterback, right? So the pre-snap thought process is, or the game plan thought process, you can almost take it all the way back to that. How can we influence the protection with a pre-snap alignment, stem, or bluff, right? So what we want to do is the old Dick LeBeau, who had studied with you in the past, and was with the Steelers, and he's a tremendous football coach, talked about zone pressures, and the whole way you make a zone pressure work is you grab them by the nose and kick them in the ass. So I hope that's not too risque. But what we want to do is give the impression we're coming from one side and then bring it from the other. So get the offense, and through film study, we can hopefully devise a plan that's going to be able to attack their protection based on a look that we give them. In other words, predict the protection that we're going to get based on a defensive alignment, right? So whatever we can do pre-snap wise with a snap, with an alignment, a stem, or a bluff to give us an advantage, that's what we want to do. We want subtle variations are most effective. So, we don't want to just be, hey, just 11 guys up on a line every time and that's your only disguise. Just a subtle movement between a linebacker and a defensive back, understanding, you have to have some understanding about how they look at you. So when they go back and look at yourself in pressure situations, see how your guys react, see what their body language is, and then try to create that same picture. But the only way it's going to be effective is it's got to be coordinated, right? So the alignments have to be coordinated. It doesn't do any good for the linebacker to show up on the line of scrimmage or in the B gap if the free safety, or the halfback, weak side halfback, is playing 10 yards off, right? So those guys are coordinated, right? So they're in and out, right? So the halfbacks and the will backers, the nickel and the free safety, however it is, whoever the blitzer is coordinated with the defensive backfield so that we're showing the coverage that we want them to see that's going to tie into the pressure that we're showing. So the pressure, the alignment, the stem, and the bluff has to be coordinated in order to make sense, right? So execution versus disguise. Never sacrifice execution and your responsibility for disguise. Again, align to execute, right? So we can show them this stuff, but again, we've got to know through film study, quarterback mannerisms, motions, how long we can hold that disguise. So let's move into that process, right? So recognition of offensive alignment and protection possibilities. So for us, a lot of it in our league is based on, is there a bomber? Are they bringing in another receiver? Is going to be 70 protection? And what's the alignment of the back? Those are the two things that are going to give us, a lot of information as far as the possible protections we can get, right? Next thing is, who is your most immediate pass threat and how can they get him into the route? So if I'm involved in the coverage side of it, where are their hot routes and what's my coverage responsibility and what am I anticipating in terms of a hot route? So what's the immediate pass threat? How quick can they get him into the route? What's my coverage responsibility? And be ready to play the hot throw, okay? What possible adjustments might we have to make versus motion? So we know with whatever particular pressure we have going in, if we get this motion or that motion, they may bring a bomber in and we may decide that we're going to bring an extra blocker and then we're going to add to that, right? So, I mean, on pre-snap, I can't be figuring out, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, I already got to know that, right? So he comes in the backfield, I'm already thinking pre-snap, hey, if they go bomber, this is what I'm going to do, okay? Or if the back flips, this is what I'm going to do. So having a pre-snap idea of what's going to happen, how I'm going to react to any motions or shifts by the offense, right? How do we react to run? What's the gap responsibilities if they do run the ball? Again, we're blitzing the quarterback, but we got to know where the open gaps are as we go through the process, right? Okay, offensive tip-offs. Number one thing we look at is quarterback mannerisms and quirks. I think Coach Lappel does a great job with this, in terms of talking to his guys about not being a last look guy, in terms of using tempo and motion to change it up for the defense so they can't just be keying in on one thing. But, even at that, you're going to be able to pick some things up if you study the tape. So looking at second down pressure, right? Just study that. Get your quarterback mannerisms and quirks so that you can hold that disguise as long as possible without putting yourself in a bad position to execute your assignment. Okay, so where is he looking? All right, so a lot of guys are last look guys. Is he looking right? Is he looking left? Are his eyes all over the place? Where is he looking pre-snap? When his eyes, and where are his hands? So his hands are down. He's looking all around the formation. He's not getting the ball. So we should not be showing anything other than what we want him to see until, and what's his pace, until, when is his helmet stop, right? So that's the point I'm getting to. So when he's right, he's left, he's scanning the formation, he's looking at the coverage, he's looking at possible pressure possibilities. When his helmet stops and the hands come up, now we know he's in position to take the snap, right? So that's when we got to be in position to take care of our responsibility, right? So when his helmet stops and the hands are up, okay, now they can still back out and give you a different look, in which case you got to have answers for that. But and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But when his helmet stops, the hands come up, be ready to go, right? And is he a last look guy, right? So is he? Believe me, a lot of quarterbacks are, especially under pressure. They know where their hot read is. They're taking a look at that split. They're making sure they have eye contact with the guy they're going to. And if he's that guy, then you can get a great jump on it, right? Okay. Tight end location, is he on or off the line of scrimmage, and where are his eyes? All right, so the fullback's in the game. Is he on the line? Is it going to be a 70 protection? Can he free release? Is it 41 with the fullback on the line, where now you've got 7 blockers, so you can run turn protection to the field and still have 4 receivers quick into the route? So that's going to tell us a lot. The tight end location, is he on or off the line? Now where's the where is he looking? So his eyes will tell you, right? He's going to look at his protection responsibility. Play clock, right? So it's the longer that play clock runs, the more of an advantage we have, right? So when he gets that thing down inside of 5 seconds, he's going to have to get that ball off. Now we can really be aggressive about showing the pressure because it's too late to get out of the play unless he calls timeout. Okay, so now offensive tip-off. So those are some of the thoughts pre-snap that we have for pressure in a quarterback. This is a drill we'll do, and I'll probably wrap it up with this, but this is what we call the snake charm drill for the linebackers. And, I've been fortunate to coach some really good linebackers in our league, Adam Big Hill and Solomon Eliminian near the top of the list. And they got really good at this, right? So what we're trying to do, whether we're rushing against a line, or whether we're rushing against a lineman or a running back, is set that player up by coming straight downhill on him and giving him no pre-snap information, right? So I'm going to get straight downhill. I'm going to get my eyes on his. I'm going to look at him in his eyes, right? That's going to tell me what the protect says. If he's looking at me, I know I got man protection, right? And the other thing is I'm not giving him information about where I'm going by letting my eyes tell him, right? So I'm getting straight downhill. I'm looking at him in his eyes. And if I want to make an outside move on him, the first thing I want to do is think about him as a clock, right? So I want to get the weight. I want to make him move. I want to at least get him to shift his weight. And so what I want to do is stab the inside shoulder to get him, even if it's ever so slightly, to extend that inside hand, get the weight on the inside foot, and create a soft outside shoulder, right? So I'm going to stab the inside shoulder to help that happen. I'm going to knock the outside elbow down, and I'm going to wipe it. It's not just a knockdown, and it's important I hit the elbow, not the wrist. Because if I get my hand on that outside elbow, I can push that thing down, because I've got a lot more power pushing down on the elbow than he has pushing up, all right? So I'm going to try to push that elbow down, and now I want to get my hips away from the blocker. So I want to get in a position where I'm 90 degrees, so my hips are facing, or I'm outside in with my hips literally at a 90-degree angle from the blocker. So my hips are facing the blocker, and that's going to allow me to clear and then turn my hips away and rip through. So if I get my hips, I'm trying not to let him get that other hand on me. I push the inside elbow down. I'm going to turn my hips away from the blocker, clear the back hip, and then rip through to the quarterback, right? There's that 2-on-1 box drill I was going to show you earlier. But so what I want to do, probably end it with this, because I know it's almost kickoff time here, is, again, stop and show you this drill. Share screen. Okay, here we go. Can you see the?
Yeah, you're good there, Coach.
Okay, there we go. Okay, we call this the snake charm drill. I think I got it up here somewhere. Oh, here it is. All right, so we got a few plays to look at here. So this is just the technique. We're using this against the running backs here. And what I'll do initially, and I've got some of this on tape I can show you too, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to get downhill on these guys. Oh, I'm backed it up way too far here. Sorry about that, fellas. Let's go. I'm just going to let this run and we'll just talk through it. Okay, so here we're rushing against the running back, and we set a drill up where we can rush inside or outside. That's kind of what we want. So you see him getting downhill, getting the stabbing with that inside hand. It's like see a little bit over a stabbing. He's going with an arm over, which is okay, but I'd rather see the rip. Probably okay against a running back, as long as he does what he's doing and brings that right elbow right through the ear hole. But what he does a good job of is getting the outside elbow down, wheeling his hips, and then ripping through at the top. All right, so let's watch a couple more of these. So here's Solomon. So he's getting downhill again, stabbing it. Now I don't like that our feet are spreading a little bit here. I would like to see all one movement, straight line to the quarterback. But you kind of get the idea here. He's coming down the hill. He stabs with his inside arm, push the outside elbow down, wheel the hips, and then get vertical, right? It's got a couple more to show you. I want to see one game action with Solomon here. So the same thing. I think we already saw this play. So this is kind of what we're looking for here. It's a good picture. And whether you're working on a guard or whether you're working on a running back, it's really the same technique. So we can see this well from the end zone here. So here you see number 10, and we're disguising this. So we're bringing a pressure from the weak side. He's going to hit the weak side A gap. Will is in the strong side A gap. So you see number 4 here, eating up the center. So now 10 wraps around. He sees he's got that running back right there. Let's watch his technique. So this is what we're looking for, right? So he does his good. I mean, the back gets his head down, but he does a good job of getting the guy's weight on his inside foot. You see how he wheels his hips right here? That's what we want. All right. So we want to slap the elbow down. He went to his knees, but he's able to clear his hips, rip through, and get vertical on the quarterback. And that's the kind of technique that we're looking for when we're trying to put a move on an offensive player in a pass rush situation. So that's what I got for you. I just want to tell you, I just want to end with this. I just want to thank Coach LaPolice for this opportunity to come and coach with the Ottawa REDBLACKS. You haven't been playing at the league for 6 years. You always dream about places you'd like to end up, and Ottawa's a great one. His leadership has been outstanding. I mean, he's really set us up for success with what we've done in the off season in terms of staff expectations and player expectations. And there's going to be a lot of success in the REDBLACKS going forward. So thanks, Coach. Thanks for everybody for being here today. And thank you, Coach Benavides, for giving me this opportunity.
And
thanks,
Benny is always here watching all these sessions. He's been here for each one. Coach, I so appreciate the time. Oh, I just see Benny. He's learned how to raise his hand virtually, so I just see those. They just keep popping across. Google tells me you've got a few minutes till kickoff. So I just wanted to thank you, Chris Tormey, Linebackers coach of the Ottawa REDBLACKS. This session and all the sessions the last 3 weeks have been unbelievable. The attendance, the people that have been here have been awesome. The expertise, the way you guys can just sit here and talk to a blank computer with your video and not see any of the feedback from the people that are watching is unbelievable. And I know everyone's getting a ton out of this. So thank you very much. Thank you, minor football coaches, wherever you are, locally, abroad. Again, for the final time, you guys make just the most massive difference in the lives of young athletes. And we so appreciate what you do. To wrap this up, again, just to echo Coach, big thanks to head coach Paul LaPolice and his staff, Steve Walsh, Kerry Bailey, Alex Sewer, Bob Wiley, and of course, Chris Tormey tonight. Thank you to the OSEG Foundation for hosting this. Thanks to the Ottawa REDBLACKS for keeping me around to host these things. Love what we do. I think I can speak for all of us. It's a pleasure to do these kinds of events. So thank you to everyone. And again, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Go
Broncos. Have a great night, everyone. Go Broncos.